Hello, everyone. This is Jaime Jill Wright with MadLit Musings podcast. And today I have with me Elizabeth Goddard, who writes romantic suspense. Welcome.
Great to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. And for those people who are watching on YouTube, yes, I have a YouTube channel. You could like and subscribe and all that jizzy jazz. But this is the cover of the book that is just coming out. Right? So is it officially released yet?
It releases February 7th, so we're just about 1 week away.
Awesome.
So it's book one in my new Missing Alaska series.
Love it. I love it. This cover is absolutely gorgeous.
I love it.
I love the ice on the window and the snowflakes and the mountains and the cold. But I'm a snowbird, so tell us. Yeah. Oh, that is a glacier. Oh. See, this is one of those things you can sit and stare at and find all the hidden pictures, right?
I know. One of my favorite covers that they made. I love it.
It is absolutely stunning. It's really stunning. So tell us a little bit about Cold Light of Day, which is book one in a new trilogy, Missing in Alaska. Okay.
All right. Well, I have Police Chief Autumn Long is a female police chief, and she is the chief of a quiet town called Shadow Gap, fictional town I created in a fictional fjord. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. But she she's battling some politics, and it was kind of interesting to learn that there's politics everywhere, and even in police departments. And trying to keep her job when they get a crime wave in the town. And she relies on a newcomer to town. He's only been there about 4 months, but she doesn't know anything about his background. But his name is Greer Brenner, and he just keeps being the hero, showing up and being the hero. The thing is about Greer is he's come there to hide, and he doesn't want to make a thing about himself, but he can't help but, step up when there's something to be done. And so, a lot of crime keeps happening, and they have to solve that together. And so, secrets and action and adventure and
ice and snow in Alaska.
well, to talk about that, the series is set in Southeast Alaska, which is the Panhandle, along the side of Canada, the border with Canada. Just up north from Seattle. And so it's not part of the mainland so much. It's a little bit different. And, the more south you go, they have islands, and there's a temperate rainforest. And there was just so much for me to work with and creating this story. So it was really fun. I love setting it there. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And you've got some good endorsements here on the back. You got Carrie Stewart Parks, who says it's exhilarating, and James R. Hannibal, who said it's gripping and hard hitting. That's a good term, hard hitting.
Yeah, I love that.
Thrilling. So that sounds really cool. So Greer, I'm assuming, is the hero.
Yes.
And I'm looking on the back of the book, and sounds like he's a hero that actually needs some rescuing.
Yeah, in fact, he doesn't know if he needs to disappear or if he should stay and help Autumn, but I don't want to give too much away. The interesting thing about writing his character was that I didn't tell the reader anything about his background for many pages. So that was kind of a tough call, but I just thought that was the fun of the story. And I wanted to do something really completely different than I've ever done, than letting the reader know this is who he is, this is who we're rooting for. But we don't get to know his past or who he is, but we can see him in action. So that's kind of a spiritual message there, right? Is to see him there, see us in action. Like we want to talk about spiritual themes. That love is an action, and actions speak louder than words. So she gets to see other people see that he is really a hero. They don't know who he is, or can they really trust him, but just by his actions, they know they can trust him. And so the reader has to go pretty far into the story before they learn who he is. And I've heard back from a lot of reviewers that they really enjoyed that. So it wasn't, driving them crazy. Really enjoyed it. And then when they found out who he was, they're like, what? I hadn't even guessed that. So
anyway, that's cool. I love those twists and turns where you think you might know, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. So, but as a writer, we'll try to pull things off, and we don't always
Right.
know if it's going to work. So
Right.
I really pushed it to the edge on this, trying to make it work, and I'm pleased that I think it did, from what I'm hearing from everyone. So,
Well, it sounds like your actions are speaking right along with your words.
yep.
Oh, that's super fun. So yeah, I mean, I know that you write Christian fiction, and your books have always have a solid message and a solid string of faith, but you did mention the concept of actions speaking louder than words. And I was thinking as you were talking about that, how often nowadays it seems we're judged by our words and different things like that without being given an opportunity to express what we mean or have our actions show something different. Be like, oh, that's not what I meant, or et cetera, et cetera. So what made you kind of choose that concept of, actions and words, and what do you feel is important about that?
Well, I don't really think I chose it. I just started
Yeah.
writing the story, and as it is with so many of my stories, the theme or spiritual elements will just kind of start coming out, and
Mm-hmm.
after I finish the book, I'll go back and look at that. And I mentioned to you earlier, I had gone on someone's blog to read what some of the themes were, because I didn't see them when I was writing it, so
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of being a Christian writer and writing with a Christian worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And, God just uses that, and the words pour out, and then different people will come read the book and pull a spiritual nugget out that you hadn't intended. And now, what was your question? I did all that talking. I'm not sure I answered the
No.
question. What is it again?
Oh, no, you're totally fine. I was kind of looking at, how you came up with, with that concept, and but thinking about the importance of actions speaking louder than words, and how that holds hands with our faith. And just I was wondering, with actions, why are they almost more important than words nowadays? Like, how do
Right.
you view that?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's, Corinthians, Paul talks about, we don't want to be just a clanging bell,
Mm.
love. And so I really feel like love is an action. And when we're walking out our faith in a way that people can see us, that we are walking in love, that we're loving. I mean, how can you can't do those two things separately. So
Right.
I
Right.
think that we live into, our world is just way too critical. Everybody walks around with a critical mindset, just
Mm-hmm.
constantly criticizing what people are saying, or jumping on, somebody said something. And in fact, if on the news, I feel like it's just all a he said, she said, or this
Mm-hmm.
person said something wrong or did something bad, and everybody's jumping. I mean, that's not news. Why do I want to hear about that? I'm just done watching it. I don't want to watch.
Right.
So anyway, so I was pleased with that part of my book and the character. And I feel like, that's a message to me,
Mm-hmm.
that people need to be, knowing they can trust me, and seeing me as someone that is gonna, follow through or do something that needs to be done, because
Mm-hmm.
they see me do it before. We need to
Right.
just, I guess, put our actions where our words are.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
makes
Well, it makes a lot of sense, because really, I mean, that's the validity to our faith, and that provides the credibility to what we're claiming, even as writers, putting these out in stories. And then, are we
right,
living what we're writing?
right, right.
Yeah.
And I've often, that just made me think of this kind of a strange question. I don't know if you've wondered this before, but in writing about God and how he's working in characters' lives, sometimes one time it hit me to ask, Lord, am I representing you correctly in my books? Kind of scared me. I'm like, because I don't want to
Yeah.
be representing him even in my
Right.
stories, you
Right.
know?
Right. And sometimes it's scary, because you have the I was thinking about this the other day. You have the concept of actions speak louder than words, until your words are in print and they live for generations
Mhm.
past you. I'm reading Edgar Allan Poe, and some of these people, I mean, he was writing in like 1840 something, right? And I'm still reading the words that he wrote, and they're such long lasting words. So then it goes with what you were saying. We're like, oh wow, am I accurately representing faith and who God is,
Right.
and what he wants me to put in this novel?
Right. That's kind of scary, because that's a responsibility, I guess leaders, people in the church that
Hmm.
are leaders, have more responsibility, but do we also as writers? have a responsibility to represent God in the right way. So I know that's kind of going outside of my story in a way, but
no, but it's interesting to read about though. And I think it's, you even look at your character, you have Greer, right? Who nobody really knows where he is, or I'm sorry, where he's from, who he is. And it's really his actions that begin to define that. And I think about that as somebody who's been a fan of writers long and much longer than I've ever been a writer myself.
right.
And how there's been times where I have this image of who a writer is or who a person is, maybe that's in the public eye. And then when you meet them in person, you're like, oh, that wasn't what I expected, right? Their actions are completely different than the words they're putting on paper. And I always find that kind of an interesting challenge.
Well, kind of like the saying, you should never meet your heroes. I just heard that on some show I was watching. You should never meet your heroes. And I mean, it could be good. It could be bad. You could be more impressed with them and think, wow, I hadn't realized they were so impressive or whatever. Or it could be, oh, I didn't know this about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It is kind of funny though. I sat down once with a writer who, is on a bunch of bestseller lists and a lot of people know her name, but and I was really nervous, the whole fan thing where you're like, oh, I'm going to meet this person. And then when I sat down with her, we just started talking and we had the opportunity to talk for quite a while. And when I left, I was like, oh, she was just very normal. Like,
nice. Yeah.
It wasn't like you were in some sort of royal palace meeting the queen anymore. It was just, hey, we were hanging out having coffee and it was great.
And it's more that you really put her up on a pedestal in your mind.
Probably. Right? Yeah.
Leadership
so,
probably.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was just thinking about your book. So you have Mysterious Greer, which obviously I keep going back to Greer because it's intrigued me already. Do people put him on a pedestal in the book because of his actions?
Well, they call him a hero. They call him a hero. And he's like, I'm not a hero. If you only knew, if you only knew what's going on. And so I have all of that and really drag it out. And, I was worried about going so long with it, but I think it worked. And I liked it.
Sounds like it. Well, you've already got me pulled in just by telling me that we don't know who he is. So it's like, okay, the more mystery, the better, right? That's my philosophy.
No information dumps at the beginning. And I actually really like to do that with most of my stories is just kind of, feed in the backstory as I go. But there's been a time or two, maybe a reader coming from reading a different market or different genre was expecting backstory. And she's like, I feel like I missed a book. There was a book before it, but then I realized, oh, she's giving me the backstory as I go. I'm like, aren't I supposed to do that? What I'm supposed to do? Do you really want it all dumped out in the beginning? And I don't know. Everybody's different.
Everybody is different. And some people don't want, they want to have at least the bullet points so they understand where things are going. And then there's me who's like, let's jump and ask questions later.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh, fun. Well, let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, what I'd like to do is talk to you about which character you connected with the most when you wrote it. If you connected with one. Sometimes we don't as writers. So if you didn't, that's fine. But which one, I guess, maybe you had the most fun writing or you connected most with or was the most challenging, or let's just talk about that when we come back. Hi, everyone. We are back with Elizabeth Goddard. She is published by Revell Publishing, a division of Baker Publishing Group. She has just released Cold Light of Day, which is book 1 in the Missing in Alaska trilogy that is going to be released over the course of the next 2 years. We're going to see these
a year and a half. Book 2 releases in the fall, and then a few months later, probably spring or summer of the next year is book 3, which I don't have a title for that yet. So
yeah, we were trying to come up with one before we came on the air, and that was going south really fast when she got me involved. So we'll leave that up to your title committee there.
Great. You have some great titles.
Oh, funny. All right. So let's talk about your characters. You have Greer and then Autumn, who is the heroine. We know who my favorite is already because I can't forget his name. Greer. Is he hunky too?
Do we write books?
I don't know. I have to ask, I'm going to make the assumption he's hunky, but every now and then somebody throws in a lanky hero.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me to talk about a anyone other than the group, because first of all, I love his name, but I am going to talk about Autumn.
Okay.
Because we need to know about her.
Yeah.
And I can connect to her because she's a woman and she's a strong woman and she's out there doing a job that's a hard job, and, falling in the shoes of her father, who was the police chief before, and people don't think she can do the job, and she's young. I mean, you've heard it before, you know how it is. She is a strong character, but yet she's vulnerable. And I really, I like to show that we can be strong, but we can still be weak too. We can be strong as women and not be strong and act like a man. I don't know if that makes sense, No,
it totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. We retain we have strength, but we retain our femininity.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And so I tried to show, create a character like that. She has a lot of trauma and baggage, but she is still strong, and she's going forward no matter what happened in her past, no matter what's happening to her now. She's going to see it through. And I created, to add to that, I created some fun characters for Shadow Gap. But she has her grandparents who run what's called the Lively Moose, which is a restaurant kind of lodge thing in the town. And they give her a lot of advice, and I think it's important for our characters to have people to support them and encourage them and just be their rock. And I really get that because I had really strong grandparents on both sides of my family that were just there throughout my childhood and much of my 20s, that just really encouraged me. And so I just loved adding those characters for Autumn, and just some strong, quirky characters to go and to help her find her way. And then also scripture. There's scripture in the police chief's office about, let's see what it is. It's I want to quote it directly. It's in the beginning of the book, but it's where'd it go? Oh yeah, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. It's Micah 6:8. But that is in the police department, and so that's kind of what they live by. So she has a lot of people around her to guide her. So why is all this bad stuff happening? But I threw everything at her that I could throw at her, because that's what we do as writers, right?
I know our characters suffer so much. We're just like, I don't know if we, take our vengeance out on them or what, but.
Right. I know I was kind of brainstorming with someone, and they were like, well, that's not normal. That's not typical. That nobody has that many bad things happening to them in their life. Well, no, this is a book. We want that to happen. We want.
It gets kind of, I don't know if it would be interesting to read a book about somebody who went to work in the morning and came home at night.
I mean, that's not a book I want to read. I mean, and really, it's not true. I know people that have had a lot of things happen, and it's almost like people that have one or two are the ones that have 3 or 4 or 5 bad things happen.
Right. I think that's where the cliche or I don't know if it's a cliche or whatever, but the term
it should be
when it rains, it pours. I think that's where it came from. Like when it rains, it's gonna pour.
Yeah. So these things happen, and that is where our story comes in. We want to read the story about how all of these bad things come together for both characters and twist up their lives and what happens next.
Yeah. And so is Autumn and Greer, are they the main characters in each book in the trilogy, or do you have different main characters?
New characters. We meet Carrie James, the bush pilot, in Cold Light of Day, and she will be the main character in Shadows at Dusk. And I bring in a detective, Trevor West, which is a side character in Critical Alliance, my book 3 from Rocky Mountain Bridge. I love to tie all the series together in the same universe. So I have 1 or 2 characters coming into the new series, and hopefully readers will say, hey, I haven't read that, and go back and want to read those books, right?
Right.
And then we also meet Autumn's brother, who is an Alaska State Trooper in a lot of day, Nolan Long, and he will be the hero in book 3. And then a whole new character will be his romantic interest in that book. And I'm working on that right now. And it's just,
I was to say, it sounds like she's not quite developed yet.
Getting to know her.
Yeah, we got to take our characters out for coffee, right?
Oh my goodness,
This is when words actually become very important, and then we need words more than we need action.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, funny. I love that. So when you're looking at the book and you're looking at Alaska and the suspense and all of that, I guess this is just a question. Maybe this is more my question to you than a reader's question. But you've written how many books now?
Oh, good. Well, I've written over 50 novels, but I counted like three years ago or something. So I might be approaching 60.
Okay.
And I've taken a lot of books for out of print books, taken them off my website and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. So I have a
Yeah.
running total, but could be approaching 60 maybe. I'm not sure. How many books have I released in 4 years? I don't know. Something. I need to recount. I need to
Yeah.
recount. It's on my to-do list, recount books.
Right. Recount your books and let me know. But I was thinking, are they all been romantic suspense?
No, I started out writing for Heart Song.
Okay.
But I say that, but my books, that's how I kind of found my voice, because even though it's considered contemporary romance, I realized that
Right.
I was writing with a suspense element in all of my
Okay.
books. Right.
Sure. Sure.
So I jumped from Heart Song to Love Inspired Suspense. So
Okay. All right. And then you gravitated. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So I guess my thought process in asking all of that was, how do you come up with stories that are so different without repeating the same general concepts?
it is really, really hard, because a lot of times there'll be a scene I'm thinking about. I'm like, oh, I did that in this book and that book. How do I do it different? I don't know. It is hard.
Yeah.
But, for the general premise, the general idea, I love to be different in every story if I can, and just be random. I just think of something random, or I'm always looking for something that is completely different and yet the same.
Yeah. No, I hear
So,
you. I hear you.
it's hard, but it's also fun, because I want to entertain my readers. And I think a lot of readers with Cold Light of Day are like, oh, this is completely different. It's fresh and unique. And that's what I love to hear. Right.
Awesome. Awesome. Good. Well, I'm excited to read it. And then read book 2 and then read book 3. This one's available right now to order. And how do readers find out more about you and other
ElizabethGoddard.com. ElizabethGoddard.com.
All right.
And the book's on there too. So
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being here today and
thanks
for
for having me.
chatting and having fun. And we'll have to have you back when book 2 comes out.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.